Okay, so let's jump right in with a pretty wild question. What if your sense of self, that core feeling of who you are, is basically running on outdated software? That's the mind-bending idea at the heart of the novel, The Lag, and we're about to break it all down in this explainer.
Our story really kicks off with this number, 11 hours and 14 minutes. Just let that sink in for a second. That's how much time a researcher named Sable Koss figured out she was spending every single day in a state she calls screen-mediated cognition.
Now, this isn't just about, staring at your phone for hours. Koss is saying it's way deeper than that. It's a state where our actual thought processes, they're being shaped, they're being prompted by our screens. Our thinking isn't entirely our own anymore. It's become this weird collaboration with our devices.
And that realization led her to define this core problem, which she calls the lag. You know that feeling? It's that strange sense that who we feel we are, this single person inside our own head, is totally out of sync with what we actually are, a mind that's already spread out across a whole network of gadgets and apps.
So, what exactly is the lag? Well, Sable's whole argument is that the line between our minds and our tech, it hasn't just gotten blurry. It's gone. It's already dissolved. And we're the last ones to get the memo. The problem isn't that it's happening, it's that our internal experience just hasn't caught up yet.
So she puts together this research group to really dig into this new reality, right? This idea that our self isn't just stuck inside our skulls anymore. Nope. It's extended, it's stretched out, and it's distributed all across the very networks we're using every single day.
Okay, get this. One of the researchers, a media archaeologist named Deshi, he does something fascinating. He maps out the physical infrastructure of cell phone networks, and he makes this amazing point. The most important part isn't where you get a signal, it's where you don't. The gaps, the dead zones, that's what actually defines the whole system. It's like the silence is what gives the music its shape.
And this idea is just perfectly summed up by Amara, a woman Deshi talks to who lives right on the edge of one of these signal gaps. She describes the feeling of finally disconnecting, and she says it was like putting down a very heavy bag she hadn't realized she was carrying. Man, doesn't that just hit home? It's this weight we're all carrying, and we don't even notice it until it's gone.
Then there's another researcher, Marin, who takes it a step even further. Her work is in VR, and she basically argues that we're starting to treat our own bodies as just another interface. No more special or important than our phone or our VR headset. It's just one more piece of hardware. But in this world where everyone is connected, where the self is stretched thin across the network, there's one person in this research group who's just a total ghost in the machine, a complete mystery. And this is where Sable really starts to fixate on the group's control subject, a woman named Lida Orve. She just doesn't fit the picture at all.
Lida is a total anomaly. She carries no phone, she takes no notes, she has zero digital footprint. Nothing. She is the unextended self. And get this, way back in 2003, she actually spent an entire year, a full year, completely unplugged from all electronic media.
So while everyone else on the team sees the lag as a problem, right, like an old map that needs to be redrawn to match the new coastline, Lida comes in with a completely different take that just, it kind of blows up their whole project.
And this is where Lida just flips the whole conversation on its head. She looks at all these smart people and says, you're all assuming the map should match the coastline. Basically, you're all asking the wrong question.
So she asked them to think about something really radical. What if the lag, what if it isn't a bug? What if it's a feature? What if that feeling of being a single, separate self isn't some outdated piece of code, but it's the very thing that consciousness is?
So you've got these two totally clashing viewpoints, right? On one side, you have the research team, and they're saying, this is a problem, we have to fix it. Our brains need to catch up. But on the other hand, you have Lida, and she's suggesting that maybe that gap, that feeling of being separate, is the whole point. And to explain, she talks about her year unplugged. She says the first few months were brutal. It felt like she'd had limbs amputated. Her brain kept sending out these signals, these phantom twitches, reaching for devices that just weren't there anymore. But after all that faded, after the phantom pains went away, something was left. Something was still there. It was real, it was essential, but she couldn't describe it. And that's the key. The moment you try to put it into words, it changes. And here's her big point, the crux of her whole argument. The very act of taking that silent experience and turning it into a signal, into language, it destroys it. The thing she found can only exist in the silence. To talk about it is to lose it.
And that's what leaves us with the core question of the lag. It makes you wonder, what do we gain from all this connection? Sure, but what essential part of ourselves can only exist in the silence, in those gaps where the signal just doesn't reach? When you strip away all the extensions, what's actually left of you?